Discussion. Good morning. Thank you for joining our leader talk. This is our regular discussion and invite some leader around ICCA speak. And today with me, Deepak from New Zealand and Pranay from entity Singapore. Yeah, Asia Pacific entity Asia Pacific in Singapore. Yeah. Deepak from Snapshotz ya, customer service audit ya. Nah, he will introduce himself about this, and and today we will talking about benchmarking, assessment, and we will also talking about the ISO standard for contact center 18295 ya. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss with this. I know very well Pranay and Deepak. He's doing benchmarking, collecting data around Asia Pacific, and sharing what is the best practice in contact center. And I think since 2015 or something like that. I always have a report about the global benchmarking from Pranay. Yeah. Thank you for the support for the industry. And let's give opportunity for them to introduce. Let me start with Deepak. Ken? Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Andy. It is my pleasure and honor to be here because sharing contact center information and knowledge is my passion. So thank you very much. I must actually start by saying that Pranay and I don't live far away from each other here in New Zealand anyway, although we have sent him off to Singapore. But he is very close by. So, if you don't mind, I'm just having my passion watermelon juice. Excuse me. So, my name is Deepak Sabaratnam, and I am the co-founder of a company called Customer Services Audit. Customer Services Audit has got two products. One is called Snapshotz, which is a call center audit and benchmarking tool, which we launched in 2009. So 2007, I saw the internet coming, and we launched, and I realized that in 2000, I think there was opportunity for us to actually create the world's first online audit tool for call and contact centers. So that was 2009. Today, we have nearly 3,500 customers using Snapshotz, and Andy has had quite a few Indonesian companies using Snapshotz as well. And alongside Snapshotz, there is also the benchmarking element to it. However, I'll explain a little bit about that later. In 2020, because everybody was starting to work from home, there was now a need to understand how well and how safely and what are the key elements that were needed for contact centers, for contact center agents to be working safely from home, and how all of those checklists. So today it's actually in many countries, there are some standards and rules governing remote work for contact center agents as well as other people as well. So we created a product called Remotability to assess and benchmark the remote work capability of the organization. Apart from that, I love my music, and there's a lot of Indonesian jazz that I listen to, and there's an Indonesian jazz festival that I come to. And I will now hand over to my neighbor, Pranay, to tell you a little bit more about who he is and what he does.
I see. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Deepak. And Pranay today used a batik shirt, so I think it's very nice shirt. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Selamat pagi, nama saya Pranay Anand. So I've been based in Singapore now for 8 years. I came for 2 years, and my role in NTT has evolved quite a bit, but my passion hasn't changed. I'm very passionate about people, right? And I believe that organizations that put people at the center of everything they do succeed. I started my career while I was still at university, working in an outsourced contact center, right? Was doing technical support, and that got me into IT. And after being a network engineer, I jumped into designing and building voice networks, and the contact center was a natural progression, right? So go back 8 years, when I saw digital starting to dominate with the smartphones coming out, I realized that, you know what? The power is back to the consumer, right? The power is with the consumer. Organizations can no longer dictate how business is done. So that brought me into Singapore, and I started to build the contact center practice here at the time, the company was called Dimension Data. We very successfully built the business out, and as a result, I kept moving. Today, my role as Vice President of ASEAN is to make sure that NTT delivers on their promise, which is, making sure that, we connect the world for good, right? I come from very humble beginnings. I was born in a very small island called the Fiji Islands, and then I moved to New Zealand. So hence Deepak and I are, everybody in New Zealand knows everybody, right? So good, and yeah, I love my batik shirt. And while Deepak is having his watermelon juice, I am having my coffee that I got from Bali when I was there last week on a business trip. So that's a bit of my hobby. I like to experiment with coffee, but I also like to hit the gym. I've got a young family, 10 and 12, 2 boys. So in my spare time, I try and, be a role model to them. So with that, Pak Andi, I pass it back to you.
Thank you, Pranay. Have you tried kopi luwak from Indonesia?
Yeah.
Expensive coffee?
I know. I saw the luwak in the cage, so I said no to that. If it is from the forest, I'm okay to try it. Yeah, definitely something that I will explore one day.
Okay, thank you, Pranay, to joining us today. So let's have a discussion about the assessment and benchmarking. I may ask question about the assessment. Why contact center need to be assessed? What do you think, Deepak? I think starting with Deepak, why contact center need to be assessed? Yeah.
I think, Andy, I'm going to answer your question with a question.
Okay.
And let me ask everybody by say, why do you need to go to a doctor for an annual checkup?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is, whilst I'm saying that as a joke, I think in today's context, a contact center needs to be having a regular, if possible, independent, objective checkup, because the days on which we were pushed to the back of the company, where we didn't have the best officers, where we were considered second-class citizens in our company, are now gone.
I see.
It's also because, as Pranay was also saying, because that consumers today have so much more power, but importantly, in that power, they have also given the contact center powers.
I see.
And what that means is that today, contact centers are actually is a science. Contact center management is a science. It is not a term that we used to use. Is not old ladies sitting in a group answering phones anymore.
I see.
Today, contact centers are a science. And just as you do a health check, And just as any organization does a financial audit, they might have a CFO, they might have a finance team, but there's always an audit done. And the reason being because finance is important to the company. It is the company relies on ensuring that there is compliance, that we are doing things right. And that's why you have a finance audit. Today, customer service is as equally important as finance and should sit, and we talk about opportunities, and should sit at the same level of the CFO.
I see.
And unfortunately, a lot of us haven't really realized the potential that customer service has today, but importantly, haven't realized how to use, first of all, haven't understood the science of contact centers, even though they have been in it for 25 years, right? They haven't understood the science of contact centers, whereby we now need to actually look at the different parts of a contact center. And today, there are something like 800 different variables that go into contact center management.
I see.
Now, yeah. And so if I was to actually just give you an overview of some of these. So for instance, just the way, for instance, in our Snapshotz audit, we have 8 main sections, 30 subsections, all looking with about 800 different questions, looking at the complete health of a contact center. Because it's not just it's not just technology, it's not just people, it's just not process. Those are the keywords people use, but we actually refine it. And we say to them, look, first of all, it starts with how your center is aligned to the company. Is there a direct strategic link to the company? Are we supporting the company? That's number one. Number two is, do we actually confuse a strategy with a budget? So do we as a contact center have a strategy in not only helping the organization, but managing our customers, managing our teams, and also influencing what technology is going to be used in our contact center? One of the side conversations I'm having at the moment is that I'm asking contact center heads whether they are influencing the digital strategy. Are they looking at the business processes that can be automated within the contact center? Is there a roadmap? So there's not only that, there's also the people part of it. And we are probably the only company globally that has been auditing and benchmarking the health and safety and mental health and safety of contact center agents.
Okay.
And people seem to think that this area is not important. But what we found is that it actually can contribute to between 50 to 75% of your productivity during the day. And in today's context, where you have a lot of agents working remotely, right? If you don't have the right setup at home, if you are not able to be disciplined about your schedule, about in managing your mental health, your physical well-being, doing all those things together, if you are not responsible, you actually are at a risk of dipping down too soon. And it doesn't help your team, it doesn't help you, it doesn't help your team. So there is a whole range of variables that we need to look at.
Okay.
Now, as you can imagine, this is my hobby horse. I have been studying and developing auditing and benchmarking of call centers. I've had the pleasure of walking across nearly 1,800 contact centers globally across 30 countries. And so for me, it's like a dog seeing food. Whenever I see a contact center, I have to go in. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Deepak, for the explanation about the assessment and why we need the assessment. And now I go to Pranay. what do you think about the assessment? And because you are most of the time doing benchmarking, so assessment and benchmarking is another combination is very nice to combine. So let's Pranay explain about
Yeah,
it.
look, thank you, sir. And Deepak, well explained. So if you look at business today, right? There's three ways a company differentiates.
Yeah.
They may have a product differentiation, right?
Yeah.
So if you're an Apple, you produce slick stuff.
Okay.
You may have an operational differentiation. I click 3 buttons, something turns up, so I go to you. But 9 out of 10 companies today compete on experience, right? Whether you're a bank, your insurance company, you're regulated, you're brick and mortar, your only form of differentiation is experience. So why benchmark, right? Benchmarking for me addresses 3 things. 1, you get to know what's happening. But more importantly, you get to anticipate what is coming your way, right? You then can figure out what does it actually mean for you, right, as a business, and how do you react towards it, right? The second one for me is on skill sets. How do I transform myself knowing that the centers of yesterday no longer exist today, and the centers of today will no longer exist tomorrow? So the business model has changed. Our centers are no longer contact centers. They are a wealth of knowledge. They are a moment of truth centers where when people come to you, they know your product in and out. More than likely, it's the finer details that they want to know, right? And quite often, when they come to you, it's whether they stick with you or they move on. So that moment of truth moment is there. So by benchmarking yourself against industry best in class, by recognizing what are the challenges or opportunities that are coming your way, you are able to adopt. And last but not least, the centers today, I mean, I have a KPI, which I get paid on. So does my CEO and my global CEO, and it's to do with CSAT, right? So never underestimate the power, right, that we influence people's pay packet at a board level. So how do we exploit that? Because good CX, good customer experience delivered by the centers, by the organization holistically, not only improves our profitability, but again, it improves our employee morals, and more importantly, it is a competitive differentiation. So Pak Andi, I think if you put the whole thing together, how do I stay ahead of the curve? How do I know what I'm doing is best in class? But more importantly, how do I change the game as I know what's happening so I can be ahead of my competitors?
I see. Can I ask, as entity, so what are you serving actually to the client regarding benchmarking and assessment?
So one of the things we do as NTT is we've been doing the industry study for over 22 years now. The reason we do a benchmarking report is we want to know the state of play. We ourselves run BPOs as well. We own our own BPOs.
I see.
In some markets. So how do we make sure we are servicing our clients well? But NTT, the reason we do that is so that I can be relevant in this space, right? How can I produce research done by contact centers for contact centers, done by customer experience practitioners for CX practitioners, and how can I then position that in the marketplace and make sure that the solutions I produce or do for my clients? Because one of the things we do with benchmarking, and I work with Deepak with his models as well, is how do I then take the outputs of benchmarking with my clients and then reprioritize what is it they need to focus on to deliver maximum value to their shareholders and their customers.
I see.
And on the back of that, I reskill my people. I go and improve my portfolio on products and services I take to market, so that I can be relevant. That's the one reason why. So it's an independent view.
I see.
And that's very important. Deepak said that. It's an independent view that paints the state of the nation, country by country, industry by industry, to say, this is where the industry is there, this is where it's going. That's why we invest in benchmarking. Yeah.
That's a good point. So, okay, go ahead.
So if I might come in there, and because I was reminded of a story or of an experience that I had 10 years ago, at least, where I went into a contact center who was using Snapshotz, and we were talking about different things, and we're talking about benchmarking. And there were two options of benchmarking available. And then this contact center manager said to me, listen, I'm fighting fires. I want real fire engines. I don't want toys. So if I want a real fire engine, I'm going to the Daidara, the benchmarking there. But if I want to play with things, I'll just go use other stuff. But the important piece, I think, there also, as Pranay was alluding to, is that once we have a health check of ourselves, if we know our cholesterol is 5, is at level 5 or whatever, right? What we are now able to do is use that data to actually dig down and see, all right, now what is it I have to eat? Or what do I have to improve my QA and QC processes? Do I need to improve my training? How is there possibilities of me changing the way I process some things in my center? Do I need to restructure my team?
Okay.
Yeah. And then also, do I need to look at the technology that I have and say, look, maybe I can use it better, or I need to go for better technology?
I see. But sometimes like this defect, when we're talking about the customer satisfaction, or just for example, what is the benchmark? What is the numbers good? Or it's not about the numbers, but about methodology. How we measure the customer satisfaction. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good point you've raised, Andy, and that goes back to what I talked to earlier about methodology.
Yeah.
So if any customer of ours wants to have a reference point immediately, I would always refer them to the Daidara benchmarking report, because there is a structure, there is history, there is a process and statistical validity to what's been happening. So we, from our own perspective, our focus is saying, when we are doing an audit, when we are doing a call center, contact center audit, I use the term audit because it follows the same approach as we would do for finance, because we believe it's as important, and that structure is very important.
I see.
And when you follow that process, so for instance, if there is a set of questions there about disaster recovery and business continuity, right? So when we ask the question about business continuity, do you have a business continuity plan? The company says yes, and they say, hey, look, here's the document. We then ask the question. How often is the business continuity plan, the exercise done? How often is it done, right? Business continuity plan, how often is it done? And then the important question after that is, we look to see if the document that they have actually presents the business continuity plan that they have supposedly tested.
I see.
And so we have 3 sets of data in there. One is, do you have a business continuity plan? So 90% of the people will say yes.
Yeah.
Have you tested it? 90% will say yes. But in reality, if you try and match the document with the actual practice, there is about a 50% gap.
Right? I see. Okay.
So that is the real benchmark of that, because we focus on the actual business practice or the actual business number, right? Whether it be operational metrics, whether it be the technology that you use, whether it be the processes that you have, whether it be how you recruit, train, develop, manage your QA, QC, quality assurance, how you communicating. So we look to understand as part of an audit process the validity, the actual, and that spins out a number.
Okay, thank you. So it's clear, I mean, that it's not only documented, but also how they implement. So back to Pranay regarding that. Same question. I mean, for example, we have customer satisfaction. What is it about the number or is it about the methodology?
So the question is a very good question, Andy, right? What does the number do? Right? The number does what? Right? So for me, and how often are you reviewing those numbers? So I personally don't believe it's about the number. The number is there as a guiding principle. But if you look at the shape of our centers, they are changing on a daily basis.
Yes.
And my opinion is you shouldn't be benchmarking once a year or you can benchmark once a quarter. Your business models change very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Now, then you look at what we benchmark today. Today, the voice channel, everybody's mastered the voice channel, right? They found ways of doing things. But if you look at the traffic volumes, right, the reason why voice is still number one is because we are failing on the digital side, right? So shouldn't we be benchmarking the digital side and creating operating models that say, why is it that the traffic volumes increase? So for me, it's about the methodology. For me, it's about that whole closed loop. And as we get to see digital, you suddenly see, and this is what the pandemic highlighted, that there is a new business model, right? The power of AI automation, end-to-end process optimization from start to finish, right? The contact center sits in the middle. So it's about and for me, it's about the methodology. It's about looking at the end-to-end cycle, looking at in the particular swim lanes, but then bringing it all together and seeing that experience angle. So the number to me is there just so that people can see on a wallboard things are going green. Okay, things are okay, but it's about how it ties back to your entire business process, how it ties back to your entire business model, right? So the methodology for me is key.
Thank you for the explanation about the methodology. And then, do you have any indicators that we need to, as a contact center, to benchmark actually as a key? What is the key we need to benchmark in the contact center actually? I mean, look, three points that we need to look after.
I think the first thing we need to look after, and again, my answers 2 years ago would be slightly different to this year. For me, the first thing that you need to benchmark, and Deepak touched on it, is on the people side, right? The health and well-being of our people in the centers. It has been a very hard 2-3 years, 2.5 years, very difficult, right? Our number one asset is the people who are operating our centers. They are our asset. They're the ones, if they believe truly in what you do, they're your biggest promoters. You don't need your clients to go promote your business. These guys will do it in every conversation. So the first thing you want to benchmark is, are my people, right? Do they have the support? Mentally, are they okay? Do they see a future? And am I creating that for them? A path forward, number one. Number two, am I providing them with the right tools, right? The right access to information in a timely manner, right? Because that is important, right? Because we work in a hybrid world now. The world's changed, will continue to change, right? Can I make sure the tools I'm providing them is supplementing them rather than leading to frustration? And then going back to the customer, right? The customer, right, chooses the channel of the engagement, their medium. They couldn't care less whether it's digital or this, that, the other. They'll come in to the medium where they feel they'll be served quickly, right? Yeah. And more importantly, they'll be served accurately rather than kind of bouncing all the way. So if you were not to look at the three, for me, it's about my people health well-being, right? So my employee satisfaction scores, all of that, very important to take into it, to then analyze that and say, where are the frustrations coming from? Where am I doing well? And then being able to then channel that into the customer lens. So we've always been outside in, right? I'm also looking at it from kind of inside out now, because the business, I mean, the last 2 years has really changed things.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned about the three things: people, technology, and customer. Yeah. How about Deepak? So, yeah, go ahead.
Look, I can't stress any more than exactly what Pranay has said, in that people have, because of my previous background too, I have always included that people well-being, their current state, as being pretty key and foundational to the contact center. Pranay talked about giving them the right tools, but in that tools, in just finessing a little bit more what he talked about, is about making sure that you've got a competency matrix, that you actually understand the volume and the type of work coming in, so that when you have a competency matrix, you can then build a skills matrix, right, which then gives you the ability to train and career develop your people along that skills and competency matrix, so that you know that when you are facing your customers, when you're going out, you actually know that you've got the resources to cope with what is being thrown at you, all the interactions that are thrown at you.
But do you think? Sorry, but do you think that the agent in Asia Pacific is ready to handle multiple channel?
I certainly think so. I think they are much smarter than a lot of people give them credit for. We can more than easily handle multiple channels. I think the important piece is to distinguish in terms of, look, I can't speak French and German, right? I can speak a bit of Spanish, right? But I can't, and I can speak 3 or 4 other languages. But I can't speak, certain different other languages. So I think that as long as we are dealing with technology, I don't see any issue. In fact, I think within Asia-Pac, and the reason why we have a lot of companies placing their business with outsourcers and in Asia-Pac, is because of the fact that we can handle technology and we are smart enough.
Some studies say that our agent more stressful with the multiple what is channel handling.
Again, Andy, I will go back to the one about the studies. There are some studies which are little toys, and then there are some studies which you actually use.
Okay.
So you need to understand what those studies are. I again, it oftentimes a lot of things are taken out of context.
Yeah.
And they only give you, it's like only looking at it, things with one eye, not both eyes, and not looking at it holistically.
Yeah. Actually, why I ask you this question, because you are more concerned about the human healthy condition. I know that your tools talking about that. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, what I need to add to that is that one of the challenges within Asia-Pac is that we are probably behind some parts of the world in terms of the trainings offered to agents.
I see. Okay.
So let me
Go
add on
ahead,
to that.
Pranay. Can you add some more?
Yeah, let me add on to that. See, for me, it's simple. I know every household in Indonesia has experts in WhatsApp, right? And nobody from Facebook turned up to teach them how to use WhatsApp.
I see, yeah.
Because it is intuitive. It is simple, made simple to use, right? Not very complicated designs. Very quickly, within minutes, you can start to use it. That's how technology needs to be deployed, with the user in the center of it, number one. Number two, the enablement is key. I personally believe that, yes, our agents, of course, they can do multi-channel. They do that on a daily basis in their personal lives. The training element is important. For example, for those of you representing the company on chat to customers, they need some form of media type training. They are representing your brand, right? We saw a lot of these movements in our own BPOs, right? But then we saw video agents when we started to video agents some 6 years ago, right? And the best video agents were mothers returning from maternity leave who wanted to come in part-time to work. And they were ex-hairdressers. They made the best video agents. Why? Because they worked cutting hair while looking at a mirror. So they were focused on their job. They were looking at the person, yada, yada, yada. That was natural to them when they started on the video channel. So it's all around tapping on to, these soft skills, right? Enabling that, but making sure that the tools and the technology you give people to address social media channels, chat, yada, 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 is simple to use. Because the stress happens when you make it too difficult.
Andy, if I might, I don't know if the...
Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know if the audience might have questions for us.
Wait. I will open the question after that. So.
Okay. Sorry, I was going ahead. Yeah. But I think going back to your original question about what are the key metrics we need to benchmark, my response to that is that there are, I know it sounds large, there are 800 plus different variables that go. It's like wheels going into service delivery, and we need to understand how each of these wheels, right, or each of these benchmarks actually go into customer service delivery, go into management of our center, go into agent engagement, go into the rest of the business and how we engage with the rest of the business. So we need to have a bigger holistic view than what and just focusing on one or two variables is just not good enough today. Because as I keep saying, customer service is a science.
Okay. Before I ask question, to all of the participants to ask question, I want to highlight, we have a standard in contact center. We call it ISO 18295. Yeah. Maybe Pranay want to start about this. What do you think benchmarking with this and assessment? So go ahead, Pranay, before I ask Deepak.
Look, I think when you walk in with an ISO certification in your centers and you go out to bid for business, organizations of the outside will look at it and say, hey, these guys have the process in place. They've got a well thought out center. Absolutely. Some markets have outgrown some of the ISO standards. And again, it's kind of debatable. For me, what's important is whenever you look at anything that's transformation, and it's happening at a regular basis, right? Whenever you look at anything transformation, the industry will always look at you and say, hey, are you guys in line with industry best practice? Are you in line with the regulators? Especially when you start touching payments and all of these things. To have benchmarking, to do your benchmarking, where you can say, hey, After I've done my benchmarking, I can tick these boxes on my ISO standards. There could be other local regulatory bodies that you need to adhere to. It's always a plus. It is always a plus. So don't underestimate the power of the ISO stamp when you do international business. I mean, it's a massive process to go through to get ISO certification. Big investments people take. So being a center that's certified has its merits, absolutely.
I see. Do you provide the assessment of this 18295?
I partner with Deepak to do that. Right?
Okay. So it's time to ask Deepak about this. Go ahead, Deepak.
Indeed. So ISO, first of all, I can tell you just a little quick bit of history about the ISO 18295. It began off with different global standards. So there was the European EN the European EN standard. There was some SABs, or the South African standards. There was some other different standards across different parts of the world, right? And so a lot of the ISO came together, and they requested. In fact, there were about 6 or 7 of our Snapshotz consultants that actually contributed to the development of the ISO 18295 standard. Now, the reason why they brought that standard together was not for contact centers to think of it as something to aspire to. It is not meant to be. You actually need to have those standards in place so that you are a proper functioning center. So it is not, you actually have to meet those standards as a basic minimum. And they haven't set it overly high, but it certainly seems high for many centers. And importantly, you have to keep at it. It's a consistent process. So what does it consist of? What it really looks at is all the, as we talked about, the 800 different variables that go into contact center structuring, management, and customer service delivery. Now, if you do have if you are oftentimes the problem and the challenge for a lot of contact centers is that we are always being pressured, right? There's everything happening to us all the time, every time. And we don't have the time to be thinking, and we might let some things go. But what the ISO standard is saying to us is that, look, you need to sit down quietly, use a structured approach to understand and assess where you are currently. And what the ISO standard contains are, first of all, there is customer service delivery, the different channels that you use, and digital customer service standards today, which Pranay was talking to you earlier about, right? Where a lot of governments, a lot of organizations globally have determined what customer service digital delivery standards are. So when you're using chatbots, when you're automating processes, when you're using artificial intelligence and deep knowledge management and deep learning, NLP and DLP to drive customer, to support your agents, to drive customer response and queries. The technologies that you use, how you recruit, how you train, how you develop people, how the operational metrics that you need to have in place, the technologies that you need to have in place. So the workforce optimization tools like knowledge management, recording, analytics, and speech analytics and customer sentiment stuff. You may not need to use technology, but and then how you actually drive and set objectives, how you manage to bring your whole team together, how you treat your agents, health and safety, and the whole works.
Yeah, it seems there's so many things that we need to assess with 18295. Yeah, but I think that's true. But we need to understand a lot of things regarding the ISO, so we make it standard as a standard for our operation. Yeah.
In fact, Andy, although I can I go into depth, but it's actually for all, I'm sure for 90%, 95% of us around here, it is what we do every day.
Okay. So we make it simple, yeah. I mean, that's not so difficult that we are thinking that we just need to check all the things that are in place, yeah.
All we need is a simple structure.
Okay. Thank you. Pranay, you want to add something about what is actually looks like 18295?
I think I'll just reiterate my earlier point, Patindi. It is a rubber stamp.
Okay.
It is a rubber stamp that says, hey, what are you doing? It's in line with best practice, right? I think most organizations, what they struggle with is finding the time to bring it all together to do that. And look, when you look at international business, when you start handling international business, these things are not just competitive advantage. Quite often they are mandatory, right?
Yeah.
Especially for outsourcers. Yes.
Okay, thank you. There is a question here from Sahrial.
Just a second, if I might actually add to Pranay's word, when you've got an ISO, if you say you've reached an ISO standard, and believe me, it's not too difficult for many centers. It's really not that difficult, right? If you say you've reached that standard, it actually raises your profile within the organization as well.
Yeah.
Because it says to the organization, hey, look, I'm actually doing the job that I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Okay. That's true. Yeah, because when you are standard ISO, it means that you are doing what you write. Yeah, I mean that you are doing what you write. Yeah, in the paper. Yeah. Okay, let's have a answer some question here. There is two questions. The first question is coming from what is Pak Sahrial Saputra. He's asking about, would you please tell me how to get this ISO and how do we start this, and any recommendation related to consulting company that maybe we can use? Yeah, go ahead. If you want to answer this question.
Very simple answer, Andy. Contact you.
Yeah. I mean that tell them what they need to start. Yeah.
Right.
In simple words, what they need to start with this one, whether they need to write something or what.
No. All they need to do, Andy, is there is a structured checklist or a questionnaire. We will provide that. In fact, I think now in the Asia-Pac region and globally, there are two companies, Custom Services Audit and another company in Bermuda. Not many people use that company in Bermuda, I can tell you. But so we have an online checklist. That is the starting point for you to understand where you are and what you need to do to get your ISO standard.
Okay, thank you. Pranay, you want to add something?
Yeah, look, I was going to reiterate the point. There is a checklist of the matrices or the elements you need to demonstrate as part of the audit process.
I see.
And then there's the audit. Once the audit is done, you may get remediation items to go and resubmit.
I see.
And that's where, we come in and help Deepak and myself.
I see.
But there's a well thought out structured process. I think the majority of the work you're thinking in your head, you probably already do it. It's just bringing it all together, right? Well documented, crafted, so you can demonstrate, and the auditor can click the tick boxes to say, yep, done, and you get your ISO certification.
I see.
In fact, the Snapshotz tool does a lot of that for you, actually.
I see. And during the audit itself, do we need someone face-to-face, or do we need someone, let's say we can use video conference to discuss, or what?
Good question again, Andy. No, it is today specified that as much as possible, it be done online. And today, contact centers, if we can't access digital recordings, or if you can't access them, then they're not probably going to get ISO.
Okay.
So it's all online. There's video conferencing. There are documents that might need to be shared, and processes and listening in on conversations, but it's mainly online.
Okay. So and then how regular they need to assess, yearly or?
So depending on the organization, and so there is a maturity scale. When they first do the assessment, they'll be given a maturity scale. So, and it's 3 areas. So either you're foundational, or you're developing, or you're a mature center.
Okay.
And if you are foundational, it means that out of the 30 areas that they have you've got 6 green scores. If you're developing, you've got between 12 and 14 scores.
I see.
And if you're a mature, above 12 and 14 scores. And if you're maturing, you're about 22 to 23 scores.
I see. Okay. It's similar to the question from Sudibyo, talking about Pranay, you may know Sudibyo. I think if you are visiting Jakarta sometime, he's talking about the numbers. Yeah. But I think it's not about the numbers only from 0 to 100. Yeah, but it's checking all the part. Yeah, whether you are good enough in the specific part that we assess. Is it correct?
Look, it is correct. And like Deepak laid out, the 3 different buckets where you end up, right?
Okay.
So the question you would ask yourself is, if you end up in foundation, right? What does it take for you to move from the foundation to the middle tier, to the developing, and from developing to a mature center, right?
Okay.
And these are steps you take as an organization, provided they make sense for your business. So with any transformation, it's never a one budget, one investment cycle.
I see.
Right? It's never a one budget, one. It is a continuous cycle, number 1. Number 2, when you look at moving your scores from, let's say, a 60 to an 80 percentile, you do it through the lenses of, will this, improve my value proposition as a business, right? Bring me more revenues, blah, blah, blah. So what does it cost? What do I get in return, right? And you make those changes. It's okay to be in the foundation stage. It's okay to be in the middle, and always something to aspire towards, right? But you continue that journey. And the point I want to drive again, this isn't a one-time effort. You've got to come back and test yourself and say, hey, am I growing? Am I doing the right things?
I see.
Sometimes in Asia, we have this thing with us. We see somebody doing something, we want to do it, right? It's okay to sometimes say, this doesn't work for my business, because you are unique. So going back to the scoring mechanism, which I'll let Deepak talk about, I think the important thing is keeping through the lenses that when I get into this, when I certify myself, when I continuously benchmark, I'm doing it for the purpose of staying ahead of the curve, providing more value to my customers. But more importantly, how do I make sure that the projects and elements I undertake to improve and go forward is in line with my business goals, my people goal, and my company goals? Yeah.
Okay. So you already talking about how we benchmark with others. I mean that it's not only about the ISO, but we also benchmarking with others. Where what others doing great with a certain initiative or innovation. Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, Pak Andi, one of the biggest challenge we have in Asia, right?
Yeah.
The fear of being left out. Hey, somebody's doing something. Hey, I'm not doing it. Am I seen as a laggard?
Okay.
Right? When I'm drinking coffee with my competitors, because we all sit down and talk, right, in businesses, and they say, oh, I'm doing this, and we'll be like, oh, and then we jump and we try and do these things only to realize that, hang on, it didn't fit my business model. It didn't fit what I'm supposed to do. So there was a knee-jerk reaction. And a lot of technology today is deployed on the back of knee-jerk reaction. You need to think about it end to end. And it's very important. One is ISO certification is a rubber stamp that says my processes are maturing, right? They're in line with industry best practice. So hey, I'm not a cowboy operation. I know what I'm doing. Absolutely. But then you've got your business elements to look at. You've got your industry elements to look at, right? If I'm a Mercedes-Benz, I don't want to benchmark with a Toyota. I will benchmark against a Prada. That's a luxury brand, right? Yeah. I'm a luxury brand. I'm just giving hypothetical examples here. So you always got to bring this equation. But the word of caution for me and all clients I talk to, because I do get to markets where they're like, oh, Pranay, we need to do this, we need to do this. And I ask, why? And quite often it's all my competitors doing it. And I'm like, but you're not your competitor, right? So I think you need to bring that lens back in, Andi.
But sometimes the problem with the benchmarking that we cannot find the same industry that we are in. So what do you think?
Look, sometimes you don't have to look at the same industry. That's the beauty about benchmarking. And the example I gave, if you want to be a luxury brand and you are a luxury brand, why you want to compare with somebody who's below in a few things in your industry? Why don't you compare yourself against best in class, right? Somebody delivering that particular service. Your business model may be different, but what you're aspiring to be different. So I think we need to also expand our horizon a bit, right? And say, what does best in class look like, right? I mean, when I look at my business, we are a very large system integration managed service company. I don't want to benchmark against my company here, so competitors here, because that actually still keeps me in that box. I want to sit outside that box up the top. So I can look back and say, what I've got to do to come here. So I benchmark myself against born in the cloud players, startups that are really disrupting my current business model, right?
Okay.
So I hope that makes sense.
Go ahead. Thank you, Pranay. Good. Yeah.
Look, I think the one of the most important points that Pranay has made in that last piece of his is that you want to benchmark or you want to compare against those that are in your above your vision of or above where you want to get to, or above you and where they are. So just to give you I have this question that's come at me all the time, and I keep and the question is, hey, listen, who should we look at? Who should we benchmark against? And I was in a room full of people just 2 days ago where we had public sector, local government, global retailers, people, Nike, Lululemon, a couple of banks, and we also had some customers, like real, just ordinary people working for different places. So we asked those customers, tell us, you want to do some banking. What do you want to do? What do you expect? What's it? If I'm, and one person says, look, a lot of people says, look, if I just want to be able to get in there, get my accounts done. I want to be already pre-qualified. I don't need to be answering questions, whatever. I just need to get in there. I want to do my thing. I don't need to talk to any agent. That's all I've got. I want to have everything easy for me to do. Right? That's one thing. We then talk. The next question we asked was, listen, if you want to get in some parts of the world, you actually have to license a dog, right? And so it was the same answer. I just want to go onto the site. I want to be able to eat. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to pay my fees. I want to make sure that the dog license, dogs get a little tag when they're licensed at the end of the year. And there are some questions sometimes asked, right? And it might mean a vet certificate or whatever, right? All of that we just want a streamlined, simple process, right?
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is that whether you are dealing with a bank, whether you're dealing with the government agency, whether you're dealing with a council, that you are now, it doesn't matter who, you want to have that simple, equivalent experience.
Yeah.
And guess what? Today, with the technology available, the kind of training that you can deliver, Andy, and the kind of different things that are the technology and the processes that we have in place, we can actually all be equal.
I see.
In that sense. But of course, it will depend on how you train your people and how you use your technology. As Pranay was saying earlier, how they can deliver the technology to increase that customer experience. Because it's on customer experience. Whether you're a public sector or the bank, that's what you live on.
Okay. Thank you, Deepak. I got the point that we not just need the stamp, but we need actually what is happen, and we can compare with others a competitor or others industry that related to our vision. Yeah, give a chance to participant to ask question. So let's. If anyone want to ask question directly, we give you opportunity, unmute yourself, and so ask question to these two experts in benchmarking and assessment, Deepak and Pranay. Go ahead. No one raise question.
No, what we will do is, Andy, maybe, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to hear it, because it's been a little while since people have talked to me in Malay.
Okay.
So it would be great for me to hear the voices.
Bahasa Indonesia.
Bahasa Indonesia. In fact,
okay.
It's been 3 years now since I've been there.
Yeah, it seems that no one to ask question about this. Yeah. Okay. Let me back to Pranay. Oh, Sudibyo is raised hand. Go ahead, Pak Sudibyo.
Okay, can you hear me, Andi?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Since no one asking, so I ask to both of you, this ISO 18925, this call center
295.
ISO 295 standards, it should be synchronized with the industry compliance also, right? Like PCI DSS and all those industry in the health, in the insurance and so on. So my question is, those measurement, those standard is changing from time to time. Yeah, because it should be relevant. Everything should be relevant with the current situation. Yeah, either this is CSAT, customer satisfaction, and now the NPS, Net Promoter Scores, and someone telling that the most important is about the sales. If your sales increase, means that you could. Some standards that change from time to time, and to get relevant, meaning that you have to follow all those parameters, standards, and all the compliance. And how, again, like Andy said, that this is not just a STEM, because same like you schooling, you just get the, ijazah, what you call it, the diploma. The diploma means nothing in the real world, right? Okay, thank you.
Right. So if I might take that question, Pranay. Yeah, first. So good question. And if I was to repeat that question back to you, which I think you're asking is, how does the ISO standard bring together all the new compliance standards, the digital standards that are now being produced nearly every month, or not every month, but fairly regularly across the world. So it's a good question, because the ISO 18295 includes several other standards that flow into the ISO 18295. So the first one is the ISO 14000, and so just rather than going into the detail, there's a ISO quality control standards, there's a quality risk management standards, there's a quality health and safety, which is ISO 45000. Then there is a ISO 45003, which is the mental health and psychological harm, which was only came into effect about 6 months ago. Then, on the other hand, there is also, along with these standards, there's also the line to that is things like the GDPR. There is the digital customer service standards, which are both out of the US, out of the UK, out of Ireland, out of Singapore, out of Australia, and out of New Zealand. All of these have been updated in the last few months. There's a CCA, which is the Californian standards. Again, when we are today, you may be in Jakarta, Pranay may be in Singapore, I may be in Auckland, somebody else might be in New York, somebody else is in. We're all global netizens today, and we need to work within the laws. So what ISO that 18295 is a living standard, and that's very, very important, because as part of so I've got a little research team that continually monitors these various standards that flow into the ISO 18295, and that's why our tool is rich and living, and the ISO standard is rich and living, so that you actually capture what is happening now. Because there is no point to what you're really saying is that, hey, look, we don't want a diploma, we want to be functioning in the real world. And that's what the ISO certification does. It's saying that today, on the 24th of March, am I got it right? 25th of March, you are functioning according to the standards that are available on the 25th. Not 3 years ago, not 5 years ago, not according to 2009, but today. So it is real, it's living. And that's what our tool does as well. If you do, is that it benchmarks in real time. So whatever the practices are in real time, and all of us know today that there are also standards for, I talked about it earlier, standards for remote work and living, and managing remote workers. And that's also been included, not in the ISO standard, but as a substandard, which we've also used.
Can I ask how many people certified that can be as a consultant to assess this one in your?
We've got about, we've only got about 12 across the world.
Okay, correct. And including Pranay in Singapore?
No, Pranay, yeah, go on. No, yeah, so Pranay entity, we support them to help them with their customers.
Go ahead,
so Pak Andi, when the client needs to do the ISO certification, I work with Deepak and his team. I mean, they are the experts we go to. We do benchmarking, so we can produce roadmaps for technological and operational change. Right? That's my business model. I don't go and do audits to get a rubber stamp for ISO. That's where my partner comes in. And likewise, when Deepak has opportunities around, hey, Pranay, there's a lot of work to be done here. Can you come in and help with the technology transformation, operational transformation, advice? That's how we partner and work. We work to our strengths. Just to add on to what Deepak had said earlier on, yes, ISO is a living standard, and that's why there's a need for you to continuously benchmark yourselves, right? One. Two, the benchmarking is an element. Your business is not stagnant, right? So you are constantly doing this. The business models we have on the technology allows for that, and it's all digital, right? So you don't have to wait for somebody to fly in to do something with you. It's self-explanatory. You run the tools with experts advising you on the outputs of what you've put in. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long, if you are doing this kind of benchmarking, how long it takes for you to assess one company? Normally, I mean that normally, let's say they have 100 or until 1,000 seats. Pranay.
Right.
Oh, back to Pranay first. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I think it all comes down to how quickly people can, they've got the data handy and do that.
Normally.
Normally, I mean, we've seen, I've seen organizations do it in a day. I've seen organizations take 2 weeks. Right?
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Between one.
So it all depends, yeah. And how many centers you've got, because the inputs are per center, right?
I see.
Yeah.
So you may have 5, 7 different centers, because you want to take a snapshot across and then look at the results holistically, right? So the variables are how many centers you've got, how large your operations are.
Okay.
Like Deepak said, there's 8 core sections. You've got over 800 inputs, questions you can input. So it comes down to how much time a person can dedicate and fill that in. So yeah, I would say a fair, if you've got many centers, a couple of weeks, you should be done, and you should be good to go.
Okay, thank you. Deepak.
No, just as Pranay said, you can do it in a day, depending on the size of depending on how many centers you have and the complexity of your center. You can have 5,000 people. Like I think China Telecom, they have 50,000 agents, but we can do it in 3 days, right? It really depends on the complexity, how much of information you've got ready. So usually we send you a pre-assessment checklist, and that will take 5 minutes for you to check to see if you got that information or not, if you got the data or not, or you got the documents in place or not. Usually it's a yes, no. And once if it shouldn't take you at the most sort of, depending on the size, the complexities and different sizes of your teams, because as Pranay said again, depending for each team, each center. So if you're a bank, for instance, and you've got a recoveries team, you've got a reception team, you've got a credit card team, you've got a high net worth team, if you've got those, 4 different centers in the bank, you will have 4 different assessments, right? Because each of them are different. And that, again, shouldn't take more than 3 days.
I see.
So you shouldn't be looking at, you shouldn't be looking at more than, 3 to 5 days, working days.
Okay. Thank you. So I mean that is including because Pranay, as Pranay said that it's not only about the assessing, but he need to also planning for what is moving forward. Yeah. Moving forward in terms of the technology, in terms of what, Okay, I think the time now is 10:20, and we almost it's very nice discussion. So it's time so fast, people came and go, in terms of this, but we will broadcast this one to YouTube, and also write our discussion into our website, sharing to LinkedIn, and so many things that we are doing with this leader talk. But of course we cannot discuss all the things here. We will have opportunity later on to discuss in detail, especially if customer want to have assessment in terms of ISO, snapshot, and also assessment benchmarking of their contact center with entity. Thank you. And now I give you a chance to give a summary and closing statement. Yeah. What do you think leader need to be in this kind of current condition? What do you think leader need to do? Yeah. Go ahead. Who want to go first?
Go, Deepak, you go first, my friend.
I'm more than happy to go. Right.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think that if you're a customer service person today, whether you're an agent, a team leader, a supervisor, a manager, or general manager, we are at a very momentous point in history. We've got never before has customer service become the focus of the organization. We've got an opportunity to leave behind our past and go into the future. Because again, as Pranay said earlier, the contact center is going to change. It is no longer, there's voice, but it's much more than voice. We have a lot of information in the center that can support other parts of the business. And that is an opportunity. If you are astute and clever enough to understand that you can now be bigger in your organization, meaning you can help your organization better, obviously to help your customers better, this is the opportunity for you, because this is where you will, if you don't take this opportunity now, you can lose it. And you can decide whether you want to be a contact center manager of the past or a contact center manager of the future. That choice is yours today, given the conditions. I think I've said enough. I will leave you with that thought.
Thank you, Deepak. And now, Pranay.
Well said, Deepak, and I couldn't agree more. So we are in this golden era, an era where customer experience is the differentiator, right? Never before has this industry given more focus and more airtime at a board level, at an organizational level. But the pandemic did show us a lot of our weaknesses as businesses, right? Not being able to address customer needs quick enough. We found gaps in our operations, and the gaps we weren't connected holistically end to end. And that's where, as leaders, we need to come in and take control. So if I was to look at the new model of success, right, for me, it's threefold. One, move ahead and look at ourselves as value creators, right? We are not a cost center. We've not been for a while. We are value creators, right? So the ownership needs to stack up end to end. It's no good having somebody at the board level singing praises, but that message with ownership coming all the way down, if it's not there, it doesn't work. So first things first, as leaders, take the ownership and be the value creator. Two, the speed of this transition is accelerating, and if left unattended, right, we can be irrelevant. So you need to leverage technology, and technology that's going to make us uncomfortable. Whether it's hyper automation that brings in machine learnings and AI and robotics, virtual agents and the likes to work on mundane elements, because the last bit that you really need to take care of at this point in time is how do you engage and enable your people, right? It is now imperative, right, for organizations to augment their employee strategy, right, with the right tools, right technology, because your centers are going to be very different moving forward. This hybrid world is here to stay, okay? So my parting statement is look after your people, leverage your technology, and most importantly, go out there and be bold. I hope that that summarizes my take as a leader in this space to say, the world's your oyster, be bold. You've got it.
Indeed.
Thank you.
I just want to say, Andy, thank you very much for hosting us. It's been a pleasure on behalf of Pranay as well. It's been a wonderful conversation, and we hope that all of your viewers and listeners have benefited. So thank you once again, Nika.
Yeah, yeah. Deepak and Pranay, actually this one also broadcast to ICCA Speak. So this is not only for Indonesia market actually, because this is Cc-Apac. Cc-Apac is Contact Center Association for ICCA Speak, combining Australia, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. So this is a combination. Yeah. Hopefully, thank you for the opportunity to discuss, and a lot of point that we get from both of you, Pranay and Deepak. Hopefully, we can collaborate for the future, and we plan also to visit New Zealand for benchmarking. Love to be there, yeah, of course. Yeah,
Very
thank
welcome.
you for all the participants, Pak Sudibyo, Pak Sariel, yeah, who asking question, all the participants. Thank you very much for supporting the industry contact center. I know this is only a small part that we can do to exchange expertise with others' experience. Hopefully we can grow the contact center industry well and serving customer better. Thank you very much, and see you next Leader Talk. Makasih banyak. Ya, terima kasih. Thank you. Okay, well done. I mean that this is